1 second.
Yep.
You guys see it, right? All right. So I async await, right? Well, why do we need this? Why is async await brought into the picture, right? It's you have a lot of complicated things as such as they are. Why do you need this thing specifically? Well, um, getting from databases, right? Interacting with servers, especially going over the internet, often takes time, right? Buffering is something that we're not foreign to, right? So if we wait on something that is going to take time and we hold up all the other processes that are queued up after it in the code, your app might freeze, right? And that's not a good experience. It's not something that you can do scalably. So one more thing that you would want to know here is that JavaScript is single threaded. At any given time, it can do one thing. What that means is uh, at any given time, JavaScript can take one operation and do it, right? One task and focus on that and do it. Now, how do you handle waiting for something in such a situation? Well, here JavaScript introduced asynchronous programming via promises. I'll talk about promises real quick. To allow code to continue running while waiting for something to finish, right? So think about a promise this way. Okay, I'll try to take a pop culture reference. Have you guys watched Indiana Jones? Also, please raise your hands or something. Don't let it be dead. You can unmute as well. Okay, one of you. Okay, someone here is cultured. Nice. So a promise is basically a placeholder, right? As the name suggests, it's a placeholder for something that is going to happen successfully or the process's failure that is going to neatly slot back in to the place itself. It's like you're trying to purchase from a vendor, right? And you've given him money and he's like, okay, let me go to the back of the room and quickly fetch it back. Well, that's sort of like what a promise is. You're gonna hold your hand out and you're going to wait for the guy to come give it in your hand. Instead, if there was a placeholder in your hand until if he got you the actual thing, that would be what a JavaScript promise is. I can give you guys context in terms of getting a pizza done, right? Uh, just a high level theoretical pizza. So you would first order the dough, and then after getting the dough, you would make the base, right? You'd spread it and then you'd make the base. And then after spreading the base, you would add toppings. You would add your cheese, you would add your um, bell peppers, you would add onions, mushrooms, whatever. And then you would wait for the pizza, you would bake the pizza, and after that, what comes out is your pizza, and then you would actually serve it to someone, right? But in one of the stages, if it fails, right, you would actually catch it and say, I'm sorry, guys, I was supposed to serve you guys a pizza. I'm not going to be able to do that. Oops, the pizza burnt in the oven, or we ran out of toppings, we didn't have toppings, or I ended up putting too much water in the dough, right? And then finally, you would clean the kitchen, you would stop your process, right? Well, this is a high level overview of what we do here, but this is valid, definitely valid, but imagine you're doing a more complex process than this, something that has more than 3 steps. Then the dot thens, these that you see, this is called a dot then chain, and they were very it was very problematic for a long time, and it gets complicated to work with and debug at scale um, in more real world applications and specifically in more complex applications, right? So instead, they introduced async await keywords, right? Async function make pizza. So this is an asynchronous function. You're telling the just-in-time compiler that JavaScript comes with that this is an asynchronous function, and you're gonna try to get the dough, order the dough, and then after that you're gonna get the base, and then you're going to add the toppings, and then you're going to wait for each of these here, right? You're going to wait for the dough to come. You're going to wait for the dough to be the base to be made using the dough, and then you're going to wait for the toppings to be added, and then you're going to display the outcome. And this is much more readable code. This is also easier to debug, and it's simpler to use at scale in real world applications, right? I'll show you guys a very sort of simple application of this now. Let me just pull that. I'm gonna stop sharing. I'll show you guys the code and actually how to use this. One sec. You should see VS Code on the left, and you should see all of you guys on the right. Visible now? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Cool, cool. So one of the ways to write backend or server logic, or one of the tools that we use, or the framework you could rather call it, is Express. Express.js, you would have heard about it if you've heard about the term MERN stack, right? MERN is MongoDB, which is your database aspect of it. You have Express.js, and then you have React, which is used to give you interactive front ends. And then you have Node, which is your sandbox environment. I'll talk. How many of you guys installed Node before coming here, or actually had it installed prior? I see 10 people. Okay, that's good. 11 people. Okay, that's very nice. So I'll tell you guys why we needed Node to begin with, right? JavaScript was a language for browsers, right? To write interactive browsers, to write browsers that did more complex things than rendering static HTML pages. And when people wanted to develop on that, or they wanted to write even more complex applications, they wanted to have backends in JavaScript, it became complex. It became weird for them to do that because they used to actually type code in the console of the browser and stuff. Uh, so what they did is they brought in a sandbox environment. It kind of simulates what was in the browser. You can think of it like a place where JavaScript code can run, right? That's what Node.js is. So I can show you guys. I can do Node-v, and it'll show you the version of Node I've installed. You guys can do this section of it along with me, by the way. Or well, you can't. I'll show you guys why. Uh, and I can also show you npm. npm is Node Package Manager, right? We use a lot of packages, or in Python you would call them mod. You would also call them packages there as well. So we use packages which are supplementary parts of supplementary code. You can think of it as that you can plug and play into your code to add you can extend the functionality and the reach of your code without having to write all of what you need to do all over again. So have you guys heard of TensorFlow? You can raise your hands or thumbs up. You guys haven't heard of TensorFlow? Okay. Okay, some of you. So TensorFlow is a package, right? Or it's a framework that comes in. It's generally used in Python, but it has a lot of different applications. Even JavaScript has one that is used in machine learning applications. You don't have to write complex mathematical functions for doing logistic regression or k nearest neighbor. These are some algorithms you'll study later. But imagine having to type out all of this stuff that you could otherwise access in a single line, right? So instead of that, we use packages, and Node Package Manager is what you have for this. And I'll start a simple Express server. So I'm going to do npm init -y, right? I'm initting a node project, so you can see this here, right? Name is Web3 Workshop, and then the version is this. The main is index.js, right? I'm going to change this to server.js because I'm like that. You guys will see why, right? And also I'm going to create a server.js file. I'm going to install now Express, and that's it for now. I'm just going to install Express. 1 second. Are you guys following around so that I can quickly know if I need to wait? So let me know once you guys have sort of caught up. If you need me to wait, I will. How many of you guys are actually following along with me? All right, cool. So that's some of you. So have you guys done this much so far? Okay, I can minimize the team screen. Or wait, there you go. Wait, if I minimize the team screen, I can't really see you guys. So I'll share differently then. 1 second. Okay, you guys should see only Express, right? Do you see only Express right now? Not Express. You should see only VS Code now. Okay, you see only VS Code. Cool, great. Uh, Now what I'm going to do is I'm hoping you guys have installed Express with me. What I'm going to start off with is I'm going to create an instance of Express. So I'm going to call Express. By the way, I'm doing this from the docs. So I've gotten Express, and I'm going to do const app is equal to Express right here. And usually you would have a dot env here. So what happens to this file is if you do your if you use Git and stuff properly, this actually doesn't go to your server. It doesn't get deployed, or rather, other people should not be able to access this, the contents of this file. So if you have something that is sensitive, for example, the API link that you're using, the endpoint link that you're using, or something even more sensitive like the password to your email account if you need it for some application. Hello. Okay. Uh, this wouldn't go out, right? So what I can actually do is, if I don't want someone to know what port my application is active on, right? I'm going to set it in .env, and I might actually call it in here through process.env.port, right? Not going to do that right now, but I'm just letting you guys know that you can. For now, I'm just going to define the port as a constant. Here it is 3000, and I'm going to do app. So this that you've created from oh, are you guys with me so far? Show of hands. Okay, you guys are doing thumbs up. Cool. All right. So I'm going to get, right. So all right, okay, so you won't understand this yet. I'll go into the depths of this, but I'll just show you guys a quick application of this without it. So dot weather and async, right? Request response. Okay, request response. I will explain each part of what I'm discussing right now, but I want to show you guys this in use before we actually go into the technicalities of it. 1 sec. Copy this. So this is the link that I'm going to use to fetch something. I'm going to use this to actually query from another source. So I'm going to try to get the response by awaiting the fetch, right? I'm going to fetch it from the URL, right? And if response, so if the response doesn't come through, I'm just gonna return status. So I can actually set status codes. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. I'm going to convert it into and error failed. Just gonna call it failed, right? Const data is equal to await response dot JSON. So I'm going to convert it to JSON, and then I'm going to do log data, right? And then I'm going to try to catch for an error, and I'm going to do so. This is conditional logic, right? If what is in this in between these braces, if this breaks, if it doesn't work, it's going to hit the catch block, right? In that case, I want to see what the error is. Yes. Cool. The server is running at this location finally, and I can open up Postman. 1 second. Is my do you see Postman yet? Wait, you won't see Postman, right? I will share that. I'll share my whole screen real quick. Yes. So we're running at localhost 3000, right? So, and it is a get. So I'm just gonna do copy this slash weather, and yes, do you guys see this? I will put this away. I'll make the terminal bigger as well. Okay, this is a lot of scrolling. How far up does it go? Right. So I live in Bangalore, right? I queried as part of the link, right? As part of this link, I asked for the weather in Bangalore along with some other data, of course. So it got me this based on querying this. So the cost, so how many queries that I made, a lot of APIs will have restrictions on how many times you can query this per hour. The one that I'm using, if I remember it correctly, allows me to make only 1,000 calls per hour, right? So the latitude, the longitude, the address, right? Bangalore, Asia, Kolkata, the time zone, uh, and you get a bunch of weather data. I'm not going to go into the details. Okay, so we go to the next section that we have. I am stopping screen share. You should see my entire screen now. Can you guys acknowledge that real quick? Is the screen visible? The long one? All right, all right. Cool, cool, cool. Good to know. So we will talk real quick about HTTP, right? HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Hypertext, yes, the same H that is in HTML, hypertext there, right? Is the protocol used by the web to define how data is transferred between a client, like a browser, like your browser or your mobile app, and a server, right? So how this data is transferred, how it is secured, is part of HTTP or HTTPS, right? And then you have some common HTTP verbs that talk to you about what you can actually do with what data you're sending, what you actually want to do, right? So you talk about, for example, I talked a lot about getting, right? You see this get retrieves data from the server, does not modify anything. You will see it here, app.get. Well, what we actually did is we used my API, and I'm going to cancel this. This is done now, and we contacted my server that is running right now, and we told it, hey guys, run this function that is in the slash weather route. This is called a router, rather a route segment, and run this function and return me something from there. And let me do this again so that you guys can quickly see. Yeah, so it did it again, right? That's what get is. You get and you don't change anything. You ask from the database or the server and from a backend, and you don't do anything with it. You don't change it. Post sends data to the server to create a new resource, right? So it will make more sense to talk about this in terms of an application, right? Let's talk about, for example, an administrative application for students, right? Just tracking students in, say, ACM. Well, if there's a new joinee, I'm going to want to create a new field for them. I'm going to want to create a new record and an entry for them, saying this person, new person X has joined, right? So I'm going to create a new entry for them in our database. For that, I'm going to use a post route. I'm going to send the data of that person, X's name, age, date of birth, the domain they've gotten into, right? And on what day they interviewed, a bunch of stuff. You can send all of it through the use of post. And then put replace it. Update is more today, where you have a field and you want to change it, right? I find out that I made a mistake and the name of X is actually Bob. I want to update that. I'm going to find where Bob, that's about update. And then patch is something else that is used to partially update a resource as well. And delete is to get rid of it altogether from a resource. So you can use the word to specify what the action you want to do with it is. And we can go forward from here, and we can discuss specifically certain parts of the HTTP basics, right? So one of them is the verb that we just discussed. Sorry. Another part of it is the port itself, right? So you saw me, I'll share my screen again. You should see VS Code on the left and Meet on the right. Do you guys see that? Okay, actually, I can share this a little better then. Right. You should see just VS Code right here, right? Well, you should see port, right? Port 3000. So on a machine, you can have multiple ports doing or being used for different processes, right? And they can actually be done even simultaneously. So if I had another server.js or something else, it would be called index.js or something, and it would be port 3001 maybe, which is actually what we do. It would run on a different port, which means it can be called differently, or it can be used differently from this server in itself, right? So that's one other aspect of it, port. URI is what you see in the top bar, Uniform Resource Indicator, right? The whole link that you see is called the URI. Now, something that I can probably show you guys better is through Postman, right? So, do you guys know, how many of you guys here know about what Postman is? Quickly by a show of hands. Okay, nice. Two people. Okay, cool. Three people. All right. I'll try to help you guys make a little more sense of it. So you should see Postman. You guys see Postman now, right? Can you quickly do a thumbs up and tell me that you guys have you see Postman being shared? Okay, it's being shared. All right. So here you see something called headers, right? What this actually is it kind of tells you, it tells the server what exactly and in what way do I want my data to be processed, and in what way do I want my communication handled. You can use there's a lot of different headers, by the way. Don't have to go into all of them, but user agent is one kind of header, and accept is one kind of header. Encoding, what kind of encoding do you want? Gzip, deflate, vr. You can use your connection, it can be kept alive. You can talk about content type, so content type, right? And the content type is actually JSON, application/JSON, right? JavaScript object notation. So there's a great many number of things we can do. I don't want to go into too much depth of it, other than to tell you guys that there is something called headers in the process of querying something, and just for you guys to know that it exists, right? After this would be the body itself. Now, it's not clearly visible in this because we don't use a body, right? But in this specific query, we don't use a body. But a body is used when I want to dynamically pass in some data, and I want my backend server to do some process with that data and then give me a result, right? Uh, for example, if I had a lookup server, right, that would take in a name of a person, and then it would find the first number, phone number associated to that person. What I could then do is I could define an app.post route, right? I will share the right thing again. You should see server.js, right? Server.js is visible? Okay, cool. Yeah. So what you can actually do is just say app.get is here, right? Get is a HTTPS verb. The same way, you're also going to have you also have post, as we discussed it, right? What you can actually do is you can send an object as part of the body saying, okay, this is the name of the guy that I want the phone number for. And it would then run a query on the database and see, okay, where name is this name, get the number. And once that comes, you would return it the same way here, right? That is the body. Get does not use, you typically don't use body for get because you can't really change anything with get, right? As we discussed, idempotent. You can't really change what you get through what you get through get. Uh, you just read data, right? You're not going to get something extra out of sending something through to it. So you don't usually send something as part of get. Now we used an API, but do we really understand what an API is? So I'll go into, okay, what is an API actually? Um, I'll go into it from a very high level. So think about it again. You're at a restaurant, right? And you ask, can I get a pizza? And that would translate to actually something like app.get give me pizza, right? You would hit this route. You would go do localhost colon 3000 slash give me pizza. And then the person who's on the other side of the counter would actually take some time and process that and then come back to you with a response, right? And they would say, sure, here you go, here's a pizza, I've successfully got you pizza. Or they would say, I've created a new pizza for you, here you go. or they would say, no, I can't give you pizza. I'm not going to give you pizza. I don't have pizza. Or it could tell you, you have come to a shawarma shop and you're asking for pizza. I can't do that. You're at the wrong place, right? This is essentially how operating with an API looks like, right? I'll show you guys what status codes are real quick. But how many of you guys have heard the term 404 not found, or you've experienced 404 not found? Okay, yeah, nice. Seven people. Holy shit, seven people are still following around. That's nice. So, when you try to find a resource on the internet, right, and it's not actually where you're trying to find it, where you're trying to look for it, there, the thing that you're looking for doesn't exist. You're going to get a 404 not found error. And that number 404 is called a status code. And I'm just going to pull up some documentation on status codes right now. Um, right. And I will share my screen again. Yeah. So do you guys see now the HTTP response status codes from MDN Web Docs? Is that visible? Okay, you guys see it. Cool. So you'll see the response status codes here, right? And these are in the range of hundreds, right? 100 to 199 are for informational responses, and we'll look at what examples of those there are. So continue, for example, is an interim response indicating that client should continue the request or ignore the response if the request is already finished. Basically, it's saying, yeah, go ahead, give me more. And processing and switching protocols. You don't need to go into exactly all of these, right? The point of this documentation is you're interacting with some API and you see, okay, this is a status code. I'm not quite familiar with what does this actually mean. You should first think, okay, MDN Web Docs, they have a good list of, okay, status codes. Here's what I look, and you should be able to look it up across documentation, right? Successful responses, 200, okay. Here you go. This is the pizza. 200, okay. 201 created. Your request succeeded, and a new resource was created as a result, right? Well, I've just created a new pizza for you. Let me just go get it. Here you go. Here's the pizza, right? 202 accepted, 203, 204 no content. All of this is for successes, right? And then you have 300. So I don't know if you guys have actually done enough to see 300, but I'll tell you one very common application that we use it for. So I'll tell you in something that we did, right? So earlier, if I'm not wrong, Exam Cooker had the URL exam-cooker or exam space. It is not exactly what we have now, which is examcooker.acm-vit.com. And what we decided to do is like, no, you know what? Let's change that. Let's just call it examcooker.acm-vit.in, right? And what would happen is the people that have used exam cooker for a while now, for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, they would get confused and they would go to that link and it would show them 404 not found, when in fact the resource has been moved. So in such a situation, we set up forwarding, or we set up move, right? We ask that domain to redirect to the actual domain of the resource, not the domain, the location of that resource, right? So 301 moved permanently, right? 307 temporary redirect. The server sends a response to direct the client to the requested resource at another URI with the same method that was used in the prior request. So if you used get on exam-cooker.acm-vit.in, but the resource was actually at exam-cooker.acm-vit.in, it would redirect that with the get. If you did a post on exam-cooker, it would redirect the post, right? A permanent redirect. This means that the resource is now permanently located at another URI specified by the location response header, right? Specified in the headers, right? We were talking about headers. it's just something that you can use to specify a lot of things and go into the details of how specifically you want an operation handled, right? And then we look at client error responses. 400 bad request. User cannot ask this way. Server cannot or will not process the request due to something that is perceived to be a client error. So your syntax is wrong. You've given your JSON wrongly formatted. That type of stuff will give you bad request. 401 unauthorized. You're not allowed to ask me this. That's 401 not authorized. I've personally not seen this, but this is the first time I'm seeing it in the docs. 402 payment required. Probably because it's used for digital payment systems. 403 forbidden. They don't have access to that content and that they are not authorized, right? 404 not found is server cannot find the requested resource in the browser. This means that the URL is not recognized in an API. This can also mean that the endpoint is valid, but the resource itself does not exist. And the 500 series is server error messages, right? This simply means that uh, the server, your backend itself is having a problem, right? Not implemented bad gateway, it means that the server is down, or usually that's what it means. And if the server is unavailable, right? And if there's a timeout, the process took too long and the server wasn't able to accommodate you, right? These are some headers. We usually talk about them in the hundreds like this. So 1xx is for informational responses, 2xx is for status of success, 3xx is for redirection, 4xx is for client error responses, and 5xx is for server error responses, right? And status codes form a crucial aspect of the way that we interact with APIs. It is what we get from them, and based on that logic, we build out, okay, you know what? If they're getting 404 not found, I'm going to display this kind of page. Then you would have seen there's a lot of creative pages for the way that they show 404. No, they have a monkey staring at you, or they have something climbing down from a branch. I've seen a lot of these. So it lets you figure out, okay, if this person actually hits this roadblock, how do I serve them next? Cool. I will switch the sharing. 1 second. So the next part that we're going to do is we're going to build a simple, uh, we're going to build an interest calculator backend, right? And I'll show you guys how you can write routes for that and how you can test it. Even if you don't have Postman installed, you can use something called curl to test it. I'll show you guys. Uh, and we'll actually put to use everything that we've discussed right now so far. So it will be a culmination of, okay, how do we use async await? And then I'm going to talk about, okay, what is fetch? So I'm going to use fetch now. But actually we won't use fetch because we're not hitting some external API, right? We're going to be the API that someone else is going to hit and try to get data. Or some process done with. And then actually the verbs being used, get, post, update, delete. You won't see update and delete, but we'll see all of that being put together and being used. Shall we get started on that? You should see my VS Code being shared. Let me know when you see my VS Code and then we'll go forward. Okay, you guys see it, cool. So we have server.js right here, right? Now, what I'm going to do is, this is the same. So Express, requiring Express, app, getting out of Express, and the port, I'm going to change it from 3000 to 8080, just to show you guys that it can be anything, right? What I'm going to do then is, I'm going to write a function to calculate the simple interest, right? Based on the body. So I'm going to keep the weather route, but I'm going to create a new route, post, right? And I'm just going to call this route simple, correct? and then I'm going to do async request response, and this will open out into the function itself. What I'm going to do, so before that, I will tell you guys the way that I am structuring the object, right? So this becomes a crucial part of how you design your API endpoint. And API endpoint design is something that is so crucial. It can make your life as a developer and lives of other developers very complex if and unnecessarily painful if your endpoint is not rightly structured, right? The data that you have to send into it, if it is very convoluted, if it is not optimized properly, it might not actually get you the most efficiency, and it will be a hindrance on further development on it, right? I'm considering modeling my API as such, right? I'm going to call it principal, right? Principal. I get this spelling wrong all the time. Principal, and this is going to be like say 400, 4,000, 400, whatever. And then this is going to be uh it is going to be rate. Was someone saying something? Yeah. And then this would be in percentage, obviously. And then this would be time, PRT, right? Yeah. Whatever. In hours or minutes, we will decide the not hours and minutes. Why will you calculate for hours and minutes? For years, right? 2 years. This is what I'm considering to be my API structure. And I'm going to do const P. So I'm just going to call this P is parse float. I want to make sure that it is a float, what I'm getting out of it. Out of the request, I'm going to access the body. We talked about bodies, right? Well, we're going to put that into use now. And you will see actually VS Code does a really good job of this. These are the things that you can access. You can access the parameters of the request, the body that comes through it, the query itself. You can access the URL that is coming, that the request is hitting, and the headers, the specifications of how you want to go ahead with it, right? So request dot body dot principal. Yeah, I spelled it right. Okay, nice. And I'm going to do the same thing for rate and time r, and this is r. Okay, I was scrolling on the wrong thing. And t, this is rate. This is right, and then this would obviously be in years, and this would be in percent. This would be slash simple API body. This would be what it looks like. Are you guys with me so far? Is this making sense? Have you guys coded along this much so far? Are you guys with me? Okay, that's great. That's great. And the next part of this is going to be const interest, and the interest is actually PRT, as you guys know, whole divided by 100, or you could have divided any one of them by 100. Yeah, right. This is your interest, and the way that I'm going to return this is response, and then I'm going to send it as JSON, and the total. So the response, this is the request body, right? And then I'm going to do the slash simple response is going to look like. Now it's going to have a total, which is going to be some number, right? And then it's going to have the interest. Interest, and then it's going to have some lesser number, hopefully. And this is what the slash simple response will hopefully look like. Total, I'm just going to add the principal with the interest that we calculated, and also the, why is this giving me an error? It's asking for a comma. Why? Oh, I forgot to use flower bases. And I have interest that I'm going to give as well. Are you guys with me so far? Okay. If I need to wait for someone, it's pretty simple. We can wait for, see what I did there, pretty simple. We can wait for you guys. So raise your hands if you guys want me to wait for a couple minutes. Let's do that. Okay, everyone is caught up with me. So cool. All right. And let's actually test this. So node server.js, it is running at localhost 8080. Now let's actually play around with Postman a bit. Do you guys see my entire screen? I forgot. Am I sharing only VS Code? I'm sharing only VS Code, right? I'll share my entire screen there, okay? Um, yeah, is my entire screen visible? You should see Postman. You should see VS Code behind it, and you should see Meets here. Is it visible? Okay, cool, 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 cool. Uh, I'm actually gonna make this take up the other half. So I'm just gonna put it here and do the thing. What is it trying to do? Okay, cool. So if I try hitting this, uh, let's see what it tells me. Where is the response? The response is here. Ah, could not send request, right? Refused. It doesn't exist. Now, when I change the port 8080, yeah, you see it here, right? And the reason this is loading forever now, you guys will realize, is because the request response that we asked for, right? That's not there. The response is not coming through. If you see the slash weather route, we're only console.logging it. We're not sending it back like we are here, correct? And let's actually, if we change that, wait, am I returning this? Yeah, okay. I can like see here, it's not going back, whereas here, hopefully it will. And we'll see that. I'm going to cancel this and I'm going to do slash simple. And if I send it, error, cannot get slash simple, right? That's because the body is not the way that it intended, right? Now I'm going to actually give it the body and JSON. JavaScript. Yep, yep, yep. So I'm going to do principal. Principal is 100. The rate would be 10. Okay. And then this would be time would be 1. And let's actually try sending this. And we still got an error. Interesting. Why is it giving me an error? Because I have very cutely used get instead of post. Cannot read properties of undefined. Yes. So I have heard you guys had questions. Have you asked questions about why JavaScript is a horrible language before? I think it's a horrible language. What actually ended up happening is I'm pretty sure that if I use these as numbers now, right, it's going to work. That's what this error is. You cannot read properties of undefined. What is this error? Add layers, undefined. It's not able to read principal. Interesting. Why is it not able to read the principal? Okay, it might be this. Okay, it's the same error. Ah, it's saying it can't read principal itself, even though I'm sending it in the body, right? Content type, JSON goes to trash. Right. Let me see what this issue is. Complete. I wait. Have you guys come till here so far? You have, right? Yes. No. Okay. Right. One sec. Yeah. 1 second. Uh. Right. So slash simple pip post. Let me see if the other stuff is working. I'm going to try and do weather again. Okay, this is working. So this is clearly an issue with this function where it is saying it is not able to. Okay, let me ask it to purify this. Right. NBSP at handle NBSP at flavor handle dot request. Cannot handle properties of undefined reading principal. Well, let's try and debug this. I'm going to quickly comment this out, all of this, and then let's do console.log JSON of the request, right? And let's see this. I'm going to close this, run it again. So it is running. JSON is not a function. Okay, cool. I'm going to do dot JSON then. And send it. Okay. Oh, I forgot to do JSON.string. It's JSON. I will close this and restart it. So starting at object constructor with socket and HTTP parser, converting circular structure to JSON. Okay, I'm trying to convert a circular structure to JSON. So it's not actually JSON. So what if I ask for the body to be converted instead? Body is undefined. That's the issue. Okay. Data. Sure. Principal 100. Cancel. Principal 100. Rate 10 time 1. Right, let's try this. Undefined. Huh. Okay. Um. Awesome. I dot use express.json, and let's see if this fixes it. I might have messed it up. Here we are. Send again. Okay, I am getting undefined. Let me see. Cancel this. Retry this. Okay, so we are getting an undefined body, even though we are sending the body through. You have to define it and specifically ask for it to use this. And let's ask again. Undefined is what I'm getting. Okay, cool. I'm gonna pull up the Express docs. Express.js post. Callback functions can be used and express dependencies on not all of this. I'm getting undefined body. Right. The Express.js docs. Yeah. Get post here. So secret to use it differently. It's all fine. I think I'm pretty sure all of this is fine. The body. Send a JSON response. What if I don't send a JSON response? Maybe that's the issue. No, that can't be the issue. It's not getting the request the way I want it to. The body is coming through as empty, rather undefined. That's weird. Let me check. Yes. Body news. Express.json. Yeah. And still getting it as undefined, right? This out. Okay, we're still getting it as undefined. We should, oh, I did not see it. Right, we're trying to access something that is undefined, basically.
It is working for me.
It's working for you? Do I have, what, this specific thing is working for you?
I'm not sure. One second. I'll send my code on chat.
Yeah. Please do.
I sent it on chat.
Yeah. 1 second. Let me check the chat. Where is it? Express.json / simple async request response const p is equal to dot principal dot rate. Yeah, so this is pretty much what we've done here as well, right? So what part of it isn't working for me? What have I done differently? It's the same function. You've also used app.use express.json. I've also done that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's try this again. It will give me the same thing because I haven't made any changes. Okay. Interesting. Did you install anything other than Express?
No, nothing.
Got it. It's the same error, right? Okay, I'm not sure why the same code is working on yours and it's not working on mine. I will look into the docs 1 sec. Press app what use. I suspect this is where they are using middleware routing and web okay, password. Okay, it's not on here. Interesting. Why is post not going through?
Try using raw JSON file, like for importing principal data time.
This.
Yeah.
Okay. Principal rate time. I didn't say anything and it okay. This is an interesting set of events. I have no idea what I changed. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I had to add this line and I was using a raw JSON body and then I changed it and it did work. I forgot that part, stupid part of it. But yeah, this works. I could then do this for 2 and it would work as well. So yeah, I see it being incrementally ended. I could also then write as many of these as possible. I'll show you guys that as well. I could do it for slash compound, right? For compound interest if I really wanted to. Async, and I could do this for as many routes as I would want to. But you guys see that the body, right? The JSON that I'm passing in as part of the body, it okay. It is being accessed here when you don't forget to write lines of code. And you can pass through data and you can actually get your backend to do some of these changes for you and you can receive it. This is a very simple application of it, but we use this for a lot of different complex applications uh, in a lot of places, right? I'll try to see if I can come up with an example off the top of my head of where I want to do a process and I don't want to do it on myself. So I'm just going to hit the API endpoint and I'm going to get it to solve it for me without accessing any other database data or anything like that. Have you guys used these Wolfram Alpha calculators? Right? The API that would be using would just be sending in numbers and the equation and the form, rather the formula to be used on it, and then the response you get from it. That would just be that you're using your server to do the calculations for you, and you don't do it locally. So that would be one such application. But ideally, not ideally, the more common application rather of these is if you had a database, right? And you want to be able to query it and then give it based on the request and what is specifically being asked, right? Uh, that is something that we more commonly use this for, but this is one kind of API. Do you guys have any questions on what we've done so far? And um, specifically the part that I forgot was this, right? So I'll tell you guys why this makes a difference and I'll actually comment this out and it will make more sense. So is my entire screen still visible, by the way? I think it is. The same thing that was working here won't work now. It's giving me this error because you would specify your app to use the JSON part of it so that it actually puts the body and consumes it as a JSON. So if I commented this out, right, like I did earlier, and if I uncommented this, we should ideally see just this body showing up here. And voila, you see the principal, you see the time, you see the rate, and it's not returned here, so it's going to keep looping on it. But this is what I forgot to do. Yeah, so it works now. I forgot to use app.use. Uh, and this is about the basics that you will need to cover, that you would have needed to cover. Hopefully, you guys have a foothold in it now. Uh, you sort of have the bare basics, right? This is nowhere near what you'll need to do actual, complex backend uh, development, but you made your own route, right? You've used Express, arguably better than I have because I don't know, man. I forgot to add this. My bad. Spent a lot of time on it and I forgot. But yeah,